Hey piano people, in today's tutorial, I'm going to share one secret to 10x your piano practice now. This secret is going to ensure that your piano practice is consistent, and consistency is absolutely necessary for your brain to be able to recall what you do from practice session to practice session. Now I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to say this secret and you are likely going to want to turn the video off. But don't do that. Commit to staying for this entire video so that you not only learn the secret, but you learn the 2 steps to implement this secret in your piano practice, because it will transform your practice forever. Welcome in, I'm Ashley from Ashley Young Music Studio, where you are going to learn how to practice smarter, not harder. Let's dive in. The one secret to 10x your piano practice now is to track your mistakes. And I don't mean notice all of your mistakes and be mean to yourself. Let's talk about what this means. Most piano players, when practicing or playing through a piece, will make a mistake and instantly get frustrated. And it sounds something like this. Oops. Okay, hang on, let me try that again. Oops, come on. Oh, why can't I do this? When this happens, you are closing your brain off to learning because you're letting your emotions take over. And the second that that happens, your brain isn't really in any position to be taking in new information or trying to focus on doing something correctly. And this might not sound like something that you struggle with, but let me show you 2 examples of how this comes up very commonly for adult piano players. So if you struggle with your frustration coming up and kind of taking over your piano practice, it's gonna look like one of these 2 things. So let me show you. You'll be playing through and you'll get to the place where you make the mistake. Oops. And you'll start and stop. Oops. Oops. Okay, let me just start over. Oops. And you'll keep going back to the beginning and starting over, but you're not actually able to make it through this section. The second way this shows up is by trying to power through, which also doesn't work, and it sounds like this. So you're playing through the piece, and you get to the part where you make the mistake. And you make the mistake, but you just keep going, and you try to find your way back, but your brain is overloaded. But neither of these options actually fixes the mistakes that you're making. And when you practice this way, what you're really doing is repeating mistakes over and over and over and confusing your brain. And this prevents you from playing with accuracy or musicality. So instead, let's dive into these 2 steps that you can use to make your piano practice consistent. And I mean consistently accurate, so that these mistakes don't turn into a part of your memory of the piece. Step 1, you are going to notice your mistakes. And I don't just want you to take mental note of them, I actually want you to write them down. Let me show you. Let's say I'm practicing and I'm playing through this piece very slowly for the very first time. And as I play, I accidentally make a mistake. Whoops, that was a wrong note. Now, this for me is in measure 2, it's actually on beat 2 of measure 2. And so what I'm gonna do is stop, and I'm gonna actually write it down. So notice that I have a little post-it notepad here. I'm gonna link these in the description. I'm gonna say measure 2, beat 2. And I'm gonna take a little note of that mistake that I just made, so that when I go to practice, I actually remember where that mistake was and I don't just forget about it. Okay, so I'm gonna keep playing now and I'm gonna go on in the piece. And if I make a mistake again, I'm gonna stop playing and I'm gonna write down the next mistake. So that way, as soon as I'm done playing through this piece, I have a little list of all the mistakes that I made. And these are places that would be really great spots to go back and review, or to go back and practice a little bit more and give a little more attention to, since I made mistakes there. Now, step 2 is to notice on this little post-it or on a notebook where you wrote down the mistakes that you're making. Did you make the same mistake more than once? And if so, step 2 is to drill the mistake 10 times correctly at a minimum. So I messed up on beat 2 of measure 2. So let's just practice measure 2. That was correct, that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. 4. 4, and I would do that 10 times in a row to cancel out the mistake that I made. There's 2 things to note here. First of all, every time you make a mistake, it takes 9 times of playing that section correctly to cancel out the 1 mistake. So that's an important thing to remember. 1 mistake does matter. Not in the way that we're gonna like berate you or say that you're bad at learning piano, but just as an opportunity to do it better next time and to drill that mistake out so that it doesn't work its way into your memory. The second thing to note here is that when you make a mistake more than once, that's a big red flag. And that's why it's so important to track from step 1, because then you really have an honest inventory of where the mistakes are and which ones happened more than once. This sets you up to do step 2, which is to drill the mistakes correctly 10 times in a row at a minimum. A really great way to drill the section where your mistake was would be to use the revolutionary practice method called the post-it method. This method helps you focus on very small sections of music, not only to figure out exactly where the mistake is coming from, but also to be able to drill it in a way where accuracy is achieved and you're able to kind of like drill out the mistakes you're making. I actually have an entire video that breaks down how to use the post-it method in your practice, so I'm going to link that in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, chances are you would get a lot out of my free 4-day piano event called Piano Practice Lab. I only run this event 2 times a year, and we focus all on how to design a practice routine that accelerates your trajectory towards consistency, and you learn a lot more about the revolutionary practice methods that get you there. This event isn't actually happening until January of 2025, but it's not too soon to get your name on the wait list so that you can be alerted as soon as the dates are set so that you can make sure that you attend that piano practice lab and learn even more about how to practice better. So on the end screen, I'm going to link that video that shows you how to practice with the post-it method, and I'm also going to link to that free 4-day event piano practice lab so you can sign up for it right now. Happy practicing.